Auggie and Me, the Julian chapter. Photoshop. The next morning, I overheard Mom and Dad talking as they were getting ready for work. I was getting dressed for school. They should have done more to prepare the kids, Mom said to Dad. The school should have sent home a letter or something. I don't know. Come on, Dad answered. Saying what? What can they possibly say? There's a homely kid in your class? Come on. It's much more than that. Let's not make too big a deal about it, Melissa. You haven't seen him, Jules, said Mom. It's quite severe. Parents should have been told. I should have been told, especially with Julian's anxiety issues. Anxiety issues? I yelled from my room. I ran into their bedroom. You think I have anxiety issues? No, Julian, Dad said. No one's saying that. Mom just said that, I answered, pointing at Mom. I just heard her say anxiety issues. What, so you guys think I have mental problems? No, they both said. Just because I get nightmares? No, they yelled. It's not my fault he goes to my school, I cried. It's not my fault his face freaks me out. Of course it's not, darling, Mom said. No one is saying that. All I meant is that because of your history of nightmares, the school should have alerted me. Then, at least I would have known better about the nightmares you're having. I would have known what triggered them. I sat down on the edge of their bed. Dad had the class picture in his hands and had obviously just been looking at it. I hope you're planning on burning that, I said, and I wasn't joking. No, darling, Mom said, sitting at the other side of me. We don't need to burn anything. Look what I've done. She picked up a different photo from the nightstand and handed it to me. At first, I thought it was just another copy of the class picture because it was exactly the same size as the class picture Dad had in his hand, and everything in it was exactly the same. I started to look away in disgust, but Mom pointed to a place on the photo, the place where Auggie used to be. He was nowhere in the photo. I couldn't believe it. There was no trace of him. I looked up at Mom, who was beaming. The magic of Photoshop, she said happily, clapping her hands. Now you can look at this picture and not have to have your memory of 5th grade tarnished, she said. That's so cool, I said. How'd you do that? I've gotten pretty good at Photoshop, she answered. Remember last year how I made all the skies blue in Hawaii pictures? You would have never known it rained every day, Dad said, shaking his head. Laugh if you want, said Mom. But now when I look at those pictures, I don't have to be reminded of the bad weather that almost ruined our trip. I can remember it for the beautiful vacation that it was, which is exactly how I want you to remember your 5th grade year at Beecher Prep. Okay, Julian? Good memories, not ugly ones. Thanks, Mom, I said, hugging her tightly. I didn't say it, of course, but even though she changed the skies to light blue on all the photos, I never really remembered about our Hawaii trip. All I remembered about our Hawaii trip was how cold and wet it was when we were there, despite the magic of Photoshop. Mean. Look, I didn't start out being mean. I mean, I'm not a mean kid. Sure, there's sometimes I make jokes, but they're not mean jokes. They're just teasing jokes. People have to lighten up a little. Okay, maybe sometimes my jokes are a little mean, but I only make those jokes behind someone's back. I never say stuff to anyone's face that will actually hurt someone. I'm not a bully like that. I'm not a hater, dudes. Attention, people, stop being so sensitive. Some people got the whole Photoshop thing, and some didn't. Henry and Miles thought it was so cool and wanted my mom to email their moms their photo. Amos thought it was weird. Charlotte completely disapproved. I don't know what Jack thought because he had gone over to the dark side by now. It's like he totally abandoned his peeps this year and only hangs out with Auggie now, which bugged me because that meant I couldn't hang out with him anymore. No way was I going to catch that plague from that freak. That was the name of the game I invented, the plague. It was simple. If you touched Auggie and you didn't wash off the contamination, you died. Everyone in the whole grade played, except Jack. And Summer. So here's the strange thing. I've known Summer since we were in 3rd grade, and I've never really paid any attention to her. But this year, Henry started liking Savannah, and they were like going out. Now, by going out, I don't mean like high school stuff, which would be kind of gross, barf, disgusting. All it means when you're going out is that you hang out together and meet each other at the lockers and sometimes go to the ice cream shop on Amesfort Avenue after school. So first, Henry started going out with Savannah. Then Miles started going out with Zima. And I was like, yo, what about me? Then Amos said, I'm going to ask Summer out. And I was like, no way, I'm asking her out. So that's when I started kind of liking Summer. But it totally bit that Summer, like Jack, was on Team Auggie. It meant I couldn't hang out with her at all. I couldn't even say what's up to her because the freak might think I was talking to him or something. So I told Henry to have Savannah invite him or something. I told Henry to have Savannah invite Summer to the Halloween party at her house. I figured I could hang out with her and maybe even ask her to go out with me. That didn't work though, because she ended up leaving the party early. And ever since, she's been spending all of her time with the freak. Okay, I know it's not nice to call him the freak, but like I said before, people have to start being a little less sensitive around here. It's only a joke, everyone. Don't take me so seriously. I'm not being mean. I'm just being funny. And that's all I was doing, being funny. The day that Jack Will punched me, I had totally been joking, fooling around. I didn't see it coming at all. The way I remember it, we were just goofing together. And all of a sudden, he whacks me in the mouth for no reason. Boom. And I was like, ow, you crazy jerk face, you punched me? You actually punched me? The next thing I know, I'm in Nurse Molly's office, holding one of my teeth in my hand, and Mr. Tushman is there. And I hear him on the phone with my mom saying they're taking me to the hospital. I could hear my mom screaming on the other end of the line. Then Ms. Rubin, the dean, is leading me into the back of an ambulance, and we're on our way to the hospital. Crazy stuff. When we were riding in the ambulance, Ms. Rubin asked me if I knew why Jack hit me. I was like, yeah, duh, because he's totally insane. Not that I could talk much because my lips were swollen and there was blood in my mouth. Ms. Rubin stayed with me in the hospital until Mom showed up. Mom was a little more than hysterical, as you can imagine. She was crying kind of dramatically every time she saw my face. It was, I have to admit, a little embarrassing. Then Dad showed up. Who did this? Was the first thing he said, shouting at Ms. Rubin. Jack Will, answered Ms. Rubin calmly. He's with Mr. Tushman now. Jack Will? Cried Mom in shock. We know the Wills. How could that happen? There will be a thorough investigation, answered Ms. Rubin. Right now, what's most important is that Julian's going to be fine. Fine? Yelled Mom. Look at his face. Do you think that's fine? I don't think that's fine. This is outrageous. What kind of school is this? I thought kids didn't punch each other at a school like Beecher Prep. I thought that's why we pay $40,000 a year, so our kids don't get hurt. Mrs. Albans, said Mrs. Rubin, I know you're upset. I'm assuming the kid will get expelled, right? Said Dad. Dad, I yelled. We will definitely deal with this matter in the appropriate way, I promise, answered Ms. Rubin, trying to keep her voice calm. And now, if you don't mind, I think I'll leave you guys alone for a bit. The doctor will be back and you can check in with him. But he said nothing was broken. Julian's fine. He lost a lower first molar, but that was on its way out anyways. He's going to give him some pain medication and you should keep icing it. Let's talk more in the morning. It was only then that I realized that poor Ms. Rubin's blouse and skirt were completely covered in my blood. Boy, mouths do bleed a lot. Later that night, when I could finally talk again without it hurting, Mom and Dad wanted to know every detail of what had happened, starting with what Jack and I had been talking about right before he hit me. Jack was upset because he was paired up with the deformed kid, I answered. I told him he could switch partners if he wanted to, and then he punched me. Mom shook her head, and that was it for her. She was literally madder than I'd ever seen her before, and I've seen my mom pretty mad before, believe me. This is what happened, Jules, he said to Dad, crossing her arms and nodding quickly. This is what happens when you make little kids deal with issues they're not equipped to deal with. They're just too young to be exposed to this kind of stuff. That Tushman is an idiot. She said a whole bunch of other things too, but those are kind of in a pro, if you know what I mean, for me to repeat. But Dad, I don't want Jack to get expelled from school, I said later on that night. He was putting more ice on my mouth because the painkiller they had given me at the hospital was wearing off. That's not up to us, he answered, but I wouldn't trouble myself about it if I were you. Whatever happens, Jack will get what he deserves. I have to admit, I started feeling kind of bad for Jack. I mean, sure, he was a total dipstick for punching me, and I wanted him to get in trouble, but I really didn't want him to get kicked out of school or anything. But Mom, I could tell, was on one of her missions, as Dad would say. She gets like that sometimes, when she gets so outraged by something that there's just no stopping her. She was like that a few years ago when a kid got hit by a car a couple blocks from Beecher Prep, and she had like 1 million people sign a petition to have a traffic light installed. That was a super mom moment. She was also like that last month when our favorite restaurant changed its menu and they no longer made my favorite dish the way I liked it. That was another super mom moment because after she talked to the new owner, they agreed to special order the dish just for me. But Mom also gets like that for not so nice stuff. Like when a waiter messes up a food order. That's a not so super mom moment because, well, you know, it can get kind of weird when your mom also starts talking to a waiter like he's 5 years old. Awkward! Also, like Dad says, you don't want to get a waiter mad at you, you know? They have your food in their hands. Duh. So I wasn't totally clear on how I felt when I realized that my mom was declaring war on Mr. Tushman, Auggie Pullman, and all of Beecher Prep. Was it going to be like a super mom moment or a not so super mom moment? Like, would it end up with Auggie going to a different school? Yay! Or with Mr. Tushman blowing his nose in my cafeteria food? Ugh.